Lauren, thank you for sitting down with me.
Absolutely, always my pleasure, Mark.
Yeah, we're here in Saskatoon for the CSGA interprovincial meetings. You recently became policy director after you served as regulatory affairs manager for Seeds Canada. What's different about your role now compared to before?
I don't know that I would say that there's a tremendous amount different. I certainly am involved with all of the same files that I was involved with before. The regulatory affairs position was a nice introduction, an attempt to perhaps stretch out the learning curve of a little bit, but definitely working on a lot of the same files, just taking more of a leadership position now. So you'll see me at more of the meetings, especially internationally. Otherwise it is business as usual for me, at least. It's always been a focus on policy and innovation for me.
So in your new role as policy director, what is your number one priority now, would you say? And has it changed compared to before?
I'm kind of that person that has like 5 number one priorities, for better or worse. Obviously, number one priority is always being responsive to our members. So understanding what are our members' hot button issues, and can we be proactive? But in terms of those specific issues, intellectual property continues to be a concern. Right now, we have some hot files on plant breeding innovation as we await the closure of the final consultation, the final piece of guidance from the animal feed division of the CFIA on how gene-edited and products of new plant breeding innovation will be dealt with in a regulatory space. So definitely, those 2 files are quite hot. Sustainability is a priority for 2023, and making sure that we support conversations across our sector and ensure that seeds contribution is recognized. And then, of course, good old seed regulatory modernization, which continues to chug along to its end date of 2025.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. CFIA just released their What We Heard report. The results, 95% approximately of respondents said that they supported Canada's variety registration system. There was one thing in there I found interesting in regards to incorporation by reference. It kind of received mixed reviews, with people saying, well, okay, but let's take it slow there. We want to make sure that we have a say in things, and so that maybe didn't get as big of an applause as maybe some people were hoping for. What were your general takeaways of this report?
I don't know that I gleaned too much value from the report, and I don't know that I expected to. I think a lot of the questions, given how complicated those topics are, it's difficult to capture all the nuances in a survey for the public without giving them a crash course in the regulatory space. So my expectations were low, which I think was important, because what we saw, it confirms that these topics are complicated. And when you're faced with potential change in a complicated world, sometimes the default is status quo. And I think we saw a lot of that. With regards to incorporation by reference, or IBR, it's a very powerful tool for modernization and for amending regulations. It's already in use in the seeds regulations. We have a number of documents which are ambulatory, which means that they can be updated from time to time. Some where CFIA holds the pen, and some where external parties hold the pen. So they're already working, which I'm not sure that everyone who responded with skepticism really understands. I appreciate that there's concerns about public trust. Who is in charge of making these changes? Can industry just go off and hit the backspace button and type whatever they want in there. Well, that's not how it works, right? So I think it's important to understand how those processes work, but again, very difficult to capture in a broad public consultation. So it's certainly not, a knock on CFIA. It's challenging. I think, with Seeds Canada, what we've been promoting with our independent industry advisory body, which will report to CFIA, we're suggesting that could be a body to assist CFIA in the amendment process of documents that are incorporated by reference. So we are suggesting that it is appropriate for CFIA to hold the pen, which means that they are the ones with the authority at the end of the day to put that stamp of final on the document. But it really needs to be informed by industry, because it's industry that is living with the regulations. It needs to work. So I think that there is a happy medium between being able to amend the regulations more frequently and maintaining the trust in the system.
Speaking of ISSB, you're also talking about that here at the interprovincial meeting, and that idea has evolved somewhat, you might say, but I know my last interview with Wendy at CFIA Seed Section, CFIA gave the idea a nod, said they're definitely interested in it. What's the update on that?
It's an initiative that we continue to promote. It has evolved since it was first introduced at our AGM back in 2022, and I think that's positive. It shows that we've gone out, we've talked to members, we've considered how it's been received, we've taken feedback, and we've used that feedback to continue to shape the initiative. So as it stands right now, the ISSB is perhaps not a great moniker, because that implies that it only focuses on standards. Standards are a small part of what it could look at. There's a tremendous amount of policy discussion around the regulations. There's the amendments to the regulations. There's alternative service providers and how an alternative service provider is chosen in the first place, what services should be offered through alternative service providers, how do we audit and assess their performance. There's a lot of different areas where industry could provide some very valuable advice to CFIA. So I see it being very valuable on both sides. And I think, it's hard. It's hard. I find it difficult to argue where the negative would be in this whole scenario. I think it's along with incorporation by reference, having this body to ensure that we are focusing on continuously improving our regulatory space so that we can keep up with the rest of the world competitively. I think it's just such a no-brainer to me. Canada right now is perhaps we use most seed domestically, but I believe in the future we are going to be exporting a lot more seed, and we need to keep up with the speed of innovation.
Before I let you go, we're also talking VUAs here at the meeting. That's another big piece, value use agreement. Mm-hmm. Why is that important for a seed grower audience?
Yeah, so the variety use agreement, or the VUA, was first introduced back in 2021. Right now, there's 14 varieties in the platform, and that'll be growing for 2024. I don't have the numbers yet for 2024, but we know that there's a number of additions. It's an opportunity for holders of plant breeders' rights, for developers and breeders, to receive remuneration for the use of their intellectual property every time it's used. So, farm save seed. Right now, we're in a place in the world where we're starting to find out that there's simply not enough money in the pot to go around to fund all of the things that we used to fund in the public research space. So we're seeing the clusters being announced from the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, or SCAP program. And we're seeing the numbers go down. I just saw a tweet, I guess it's not called a tweet, an X? Whatever we're calling it now,
X,
tweets,
I think,
an X,
or yeah.
showing the canola cluster was announced yesterday, and showing what the value of the cluster is today, 3 clusters ago based on inflation, and where it should have been if we had followed the same trend from 3 years ago or 3 clusters ago. And we are significantly less than where we should be to maintain the investment in innovation. So somewhere we need to make up the gap. And unfortunately, money does not grow on trees, nor does it grow, out in the field on wheat heads or corn stalks. We need a way to ensure that we have continuous investment in plant breeding innovation. And seed growers, they're an important part of the conversation because they're the conduit between the developer and the customer a lot of times. In the variety use platform, they're often referred to as the retailer. They're the ones that need to decide which varieties they're going to offer their customers based on the increased innovation. If they want to sell more certified seed, they can do so if they have a great winning variety. And a great winning variety doesn't come from nothing. It needs a tremendous amount of investment behind it to incorporate all the necessary traits and to put it in that package, that quality package. So I think everyone across the value chain benefits from increased innovation investment. I certainly think the seed growers, as organizations, as operators, understand that. So it's an important partnership, and it's good for Seeds Canada, who administers the variety use agreement, to talk to them and to ensure that what we offer as a platform is working for them as a retailer. So of course their feedback is very important. We need to make sure that things are as seamless administratively for them as we can make them. So we've launched a number of new updates as of last night, of November 14th, I think last night was. So a number of really great updates that our members are very excited about, and I think they're going to make a big difference in terms of efficiency and user experience.
Well, good. Well, that's to be announced, I'm assuming, this coming Friday, Monday at your semi-annual meeting. Looking forward
Yes, yeah, we'll talk about that very soon.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. And I think, for the record, I think Twitter or X, whatever it is now, refers to it. It's now a post, I think. It's okay. Not a tweet. It's just a generic post.
Old habits die hard. I'll work on it.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Mark.